This is a story you may have heard before, though never quite like this. Perhaps our old friend Aesop once told you a tale about a fox and a stork. I'm willing to bet that even if you haven't heard the tale, you know what it's like to have been a fox in the company of a stork, or vice versa. Some believe all Aesop ever told were simple warnings of what and who to avoid, but things are never quite so simple, and people even less so. There once were two ladies who lived across the way from one another, both spending their days tending to magnificent gardens, but never crossing over to the other side. The garden on the left was tended by the graceful and secretive Lady Lou, and the garden on the right by the exuberant and impulsive Lady Wren. They were neighbors, and still they were strangers. One day, curiosity at last got the better of Lady Wren, and she invited Lady Lou to her garden for tea. So it was that the way between the gardens was crossed for the very first time. When Lady Lou arrived in her neighbor's garden, the two talked over tea and found that they shared much in common: hopes and dreams, wants and needs, and a love for beautiful things. In simpler terms, they hit it off. Emboldened by their conversation, Lady Wren had an idea. She dashed off and quickly returned with a dazzling dress in her hands. "I have a gift for you," she said. "We both love beautiful things, so I want you to have one of mine." Lady Lou hesitated. The dress was indeed beautiful, but rather extravagant for her taste. She was wondering if it would even fit when she suddenly found herself blinded by frills and tassels as Lady Wren threw the dress over her head. It was a dress she would never have chosen for herself, and its bold colors and short skirt made her unpleasantly self-aware. "I feel ridiculous," cried a startled Lady Lou, casting the dress aside. Lady Wren was taken aback. "But I've just given you one of my loveliest frocks," she retorted. Lady Lou stormed out of the garden. "A lovely frock it is, but my own clothes suit me just fine." And that was the last they saw of each other. Until the day another invitation was sent, this time from Lady Lou to Lady Wren. Lady Wren resolved to ignore it, but curiosity again got the better of her, and the way between the gardens was crossed once more. Upon her neighbor's arrival, Lady Lou served tea just as Lady Wren had. The two exchanged pleasantries for a while, as though nothing were amiss, but it was clear that more than just the steam from the tea hung in the air between them. "Excuse me for a moment," Lady Lou said, after one too many uncomfortable pauses. She disappeared behind the trees and reappeared holding an elegant silk gown. "I must apologize for leaving so abruptly when we first met. I'd like for you to have one of my favorite dresses, since you gave me one of yours." Lady Wren was too elated by the sight of the fine fabric to question the offer. She wasted no time in pulling on the dress, but soon found herself swimming in a sea of silk. The dress was far too long for her, and her movements were restricted by its delicate cut. "I cannot wear this," she murmured. Lady Lou could hardly conceal a sly smile as she replied, "But it's one of my loveliest gowns." Lady Wren chuckled a little sheepishly and said, "It is quite lovely, but I do believe my own clothes suit me just fine." She thought for a moment, then looked at her neighbor with new understanding in her eyes before continuing to speak. "I'm truly sorry for my behavior. I thought I was being kind to you, but perhaps I was only thinking of what would have felt like kindness to me." Lady Lou looked back at Lady Wren fondly. "I'll tell you a secret," she said. "All of the kindness in the world cannot make us the same, but it can bring you close to me." The two ladies smiled and returned to sipping their tea. They were neighbors, but they were no longer strangers. A fox in the company of a stork is an unusual thing, and rather a lovely image to behold. Let's hope that they treat each other with kindness, so we may behold them a little while longer.